The alien
We
ship
need to
was
get out of
huge,
here.
shining like silver under the lights of the station. People stopped to stare, but no one dared to get close. The ship belonged to the Valari, a warrior race feared across the galaxy. Inside the station's bar, one human sat at the corner table. His name was Daniel. He was not a soldier, not a fighter, just a technician who repaired small ships. He liked quiet nights with a drink, but this night was not quiet. The doors opened, and the room froze. A tall figure walked in, 7 feet tall, armored, with skin like pale metal. Her eyes glowed golden. Her presence was heavy, like a storm. She was a Valari warlord. The aliens around lowered their heads. No one dared to meet her eyes. Everyone knew Valari warlords were dangerous, brutal, and proud, but Daniel made the mistake. He was not drunk, not fully, but he was tired and annoyed. He whispered to himself, but too loud, tall, strong, and scary, but still beautiful. The bar went silent. The words had escaped. Everyone heard them. And the warlord turned. Her golden eyes locked on Daniel. The silence grew heavy. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He tried to laugh, to make it a joke. I meant no offense. Just compliment, you know. The warlord stepped closer. Her shadow covered his table. She leaned down, her voice sharp and smooth. Did you just flirt with me, human? Daniel swallowed, his throat dry. Around them, the other aliens whispered. Some looked horrified, some amused. A few even backed away. No one interfered. He tried to smile. It was just a mistake. The warlord smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was sharp, dangerous. A mistake? She repeated, No, human, you dared. Before Daniel could stand, her hand caught his arm. Her grip was iron. He felt his bones ache under her strength. She pulled him up like he weighed nothing. You will come with me, she said. Her voice was not a request. It was command. Daniel shook his head. Wait, no, look. I didn't mean anything. I just... Her eyes narrowed. You think you can speak to a Valari warlord and walk away? The aliens in the bar kept silent. No one helped. No one stopped her. Daniel realized something chilling. He was alone, dragged out of the bar. Daniel's boots scraped against the floor. He tried to pull free, but her grip was unbreakable. His heart raced. Fear ran cold through his body. The docking bay was quiet. Her massive ship waited. Its black and silver frame looked like the jaws of a beast. The door opened with a hiss. She pushed him inside. The halls of the ship were dark and tall. Made for warriors, not for humans. Daniel felt small. He felt trapped. His every step echoed. Finally, she released his arm, but her golden eyes never left him. You spoke to me as if I were your equal, she said. You dared to flirt with me. Daniel raised his hands. I swear it was nothing serious. She tilted her head. Then explain why my blood is hot with fire. He blinked, not understanding. What? The warlord stepped closer. Her towering form leaned down until her face was inches from his. He could feel her breath, warm and sharp like a blade. You woke something human, and now you cannot leave. Daniel's stomach sank. He tried to laugh again, weak and shaking. This is all a misunderstanding. She didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't move. No misunderstanding, she said, her voice low. You belong to me now. Daniel's chest tightened. His breath caught. He realized the mistake was far greater than he thought. It was not just a comment. It was a chain. The doors behind him sealed shut. The ship hummed to life. Daniel turned in panic. Wait. You can't. The warlord stood tall, her armor glowing faintly, her eyes sharp. You flirted with a Valari warlord, human, she said. Now you will face the cost. The engines roared. The ship lifted from the station. Daniel stumbled, holding on to the wall. His world turned upside down. He wasn't going home. He was her prisoner, or worse. The galaxy outside blurred into streaks of light. as the ship entered faster than light travel. Daniel's throat was dry. His mind screamed, his body shook. Warlord only watched him, her gaze never leaving, her voice soft, almost cruel. "From now on, human, your mistake is your life." The ship felt alive, its walls humming with strange energy, its corridors glowing with soft red light, like veins carrying blood through a living creature. Every step the human took echoed, reminding him he was not among his own kind anymore. Two tall alien guards, with armor made of dark metal, walked on each side of him. Their faces were hidden under helmets, but their glowing eyes peered through. Bright and cold, he was not their guest. He was their prisoner. The Warlord herself walked in front of him. Her steps were strong and heavy, but graceful. She was 7 feet tall, her shoulders broad, her long dark hair flowing like a banner of power. The golden armor on her body shone with firelight from the walls. She did not look back at him, but he felt her presence pulling him forward like gravity. The human tried to speak. "Look, it was just a joke. I didn't mean." The Warlord raised her hand, and the guards instantly tightened their grip on their weapons. The human froze, his words stuck in his throat. Finally she turned, her alien. Eyes glowed faintly, deep violet, with pupils shaped like blades. Her voice rolled like thunder, yet soft like velvet. "Do you think my people are toys, little human? Do you think I am a thing you can mock?" The human's heart pounded. He wanted to explain. He wanted to say it was an accident. But her gaze held him, sharp and unbreaking. The Warlord leaned close. Her height forced him to look up at her. Her breath was warm, almost burning. She whispered, "On my ship, a mistake is not forgiven. A mistake is claimed." Her words felt like chains wrapping around him. The guards pushed him into a chamber. The doors closed behind with a heavy metallic hiss. The room was wide, filled with strange, glowing symbols on the floor. Strange smoke drifted from vents. The air was heavy, sweet, and suffocating. He turned and saw her step inside too. She dismissed the guards with a wave of her hand. The doors locked with a deep, echoing sound. Now it was just him and her. She walked slowly around him, circling, studying him like a predator studies prey. Every step she made was deliberate, making the floor tremble. "You are small," she said calmly. "Your body is fragile. Your world is weak, but you are bold." She stopped behind him, close enough that he felt the heat of her presence. "Tell me, human, do you fear me?" He swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "Yes, I do." The Warlord let out a sound that was half a laugh, half a growl. "Good. Fear keeps you alive, but sometimes fear feeds the wrong fire." She moved in front of him again, her eyes still burning into his soul. Then she said something that made his blood freeze. "You will not leave this ship until I decide you are mine now, human." The human's heart skipped, his chest felt tight. He realized this was no ordinary warlord. She was not only a commander of armies. She was something far more dangerous. The ship hummed louder, as if it had heard her words and agreed. The walls seemed to close in, and he suddenly felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes watching him from shadows unseen. And in that moment, he knew his mistake was no longer just a joke. It had become a trap that he might never escape. The human sat quietly in the alien warlord's ship, his hands tied with glowing bands of energy. He tried to look calm, but inside his heart was racing like a drum. The warlord's soldiers had dragged him to a large hall deep inside the ship. The walls were black metal, shining with strange symbols. Blue fire burned in tall glass tubes, giving the place a ghostly glow. The Warlord stepped forward, towering over everyone. Her height made her look like a giant compared to the human. Her long silver hair flowed like liquid light, and her armor glowed with red lines. She stared at him with sharp golden eyes that could cut through lies. "You want to flirt with a warlord?" she said, her deep voice shaking the room. "Then you must prove you are not weak." The soldiers laughed, their sharp teeth flashed in the light. They thought the human would break in seconds. But the warlord raised her hand, and they became silent. She pointed to the center of the hall. A circle of symbols lit up on the floor. "This is the trial of strength," she said. "But for you, it will be the test of will." The human was pushed into the glowing circle. The energy bands fell off his hands. He was free, but only inside the circle. The warlord's soldiers began to chant in their alien tongue. The ground shook, and suddenly a creature rose from the floor. It was massive, its body made of shifting black smoke and glowing eyes. Its roar filled the hall, shaking the human's bones. The soldiers stepped back. Even they feared this beast. The warlord smiled coldly. "Defeat it, and you may live, fail, and your bones will lie in my hall forever." The human swallowed hard. He had no weapon, no armor, only his mind and his courage. The beast lunged, its claws slashing the air. He rolled to the side, barely escaping. The alien soldiers laughed louder, thinking it was a game. But the human was not just running. He was watching, learning every move of the beast, every time. Its body shifted. He studied it. He noticed the glowing eyes, 3 burning orbs on its head. Whenever the beast roared, the middle eye flickered. That was the weakness. The warlord watched him closely. Her golden eyes narrowed. She expected him to cry, to beg for mercy. But instead, he stood up taller, breathing hard but steady. "You think humans are weak," he said loudly. "But we survive not with claws or fire. We survive with our will." The beast roared again and charged. This time, the human ran straight at it. At the last second, he slid under its smoky body and grabbed a piece of broken metal from the floor. With all his strength, he jumped and stabbed the glowing middle. The hall shook with a deafening scream. The beast exploded into black smoke. Leaving nothing behind, silence filled the hall. The soldiers stared in shock. The warlord stepped closer, her face unreadable. She looked down at the human, only a small figure before her giant frame. Finally, she spoke, her voice softer but dangerous. "You are not like the others," she said. "You passed the test, but now you belong to me." The soldiers roared with cheers, some in anger, some in respect. The human stood there, chest rising and falling. He had survived, but he knew the game was only beginning. And in that moment, he realized something chilling. This was not the end of the test. This was only the beginning. The ship's halls grew quieter now, but the silence carried weight, like the calm before a storm. The human walked beside the alien warlord, his steps unsure, his mind racing. He had been a captive, then a test subject. But something strange had started to happen. She no longer looked at him only as prey. There was a new fire in her golden eyes, a look of interest, almost curiosity. The alien warlord, towering at 7 feet, slowed her pace. She turned her sharp gaze down at him, her voice low, almost like a growl. "You survived the test of fire. No human should have, yet you did," she said, her tone caught between admiration and suspicion. "Tell me, what are you really?" He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "I'm just a man," he said softly. "But maybe humans are stronger than you think." The words hung in the air, bold and dangerous. Instead of anger, she gave a sound between a laugh and a snarl. It echoed down the corridor, powerful and unnerving. But in her laugh, there was no mockery this time. It carried something else, respect. And yet, respect was dangerous, because respect could lead to something deeper, something that neither of them were ready for. Later, he was taken to her chambers. Not a prison cell this time. Her private room, filled with weapons, banners of war, and strange glowing crystals that pulsed like living hearts. He stood there, nervous. as she removed her armor piece by piece, not to show weakness, but to show she trusted him enough to let him see her scars. "You humans speak of freedom," she said slowly, her eyes fixed on him. "But here you are, bound to me, my captive, my companion." The pause in her voice lingered, heavy. He felt his chest tighten, not knowing if this was a threat or something else entirely. "You think I chose this?" he asked carefully. She stepped closer, her shadow falling over him like a mountain. "No," she admitted, her voice a whisper now. "But the bond has already begun when prey survives the hunt. Sometimes it becomes something more." The word sent a chill down his spine. "A bond," she said. But was it a warrior's bond or something personal? He didn't know, but he could feel the truth. She would not let him go. And somewhere deep inside, a part of him no longer wanted to leave. That night, as the ship drifted through the stars, he lay awake, staring at the glowing patterns across the walls, and he realized something terrifying. He was no longer planning an escape. He was wondering what it meant to be bound to her. The suspense tightened like a rope, for the bond was only the beginning, and beyond it was a future neither of them had imagined. The arena thundered with the roars of alien voices, a chorus of anticipation and bloodlust. But in the center of it all stood one figure, quiet, steady, human. Kieran had endured the captivity, the tests, the trials, and now came what the alien chieftain had whispered would be the final judgment. A duel not against beasts or traps, but against a living rival. From the far gate, heavy iron doors screeched open, and a figure stepped into the light, taller than Kieran by a head, armored in plates that shimmered like molten stone. The crowd hushed, and even the guards stiffened, for this was not just any warrior. This was Velith, the tribe's undefeated champion, the one who had risen through centuries of combat, a living weapon forged in battle and worshipped like a god. Velith's eyes, burning yellow, scanned the human with something between curiosity and disdain. "So this is the creature the council whispers about, the one who passed the tests no outsider ever should." His voice echoed, thick with challenge. Kieran did not respond. He only lifted the crude blade he had been given, a weapon more like a shard of metal than a sword, its edges jagged, its weight uneven, yet in his grip it looked balanced. Alive, the chieftain raised a clawed hand, and silence spread like a shadow. The human faces the trial of rivalry. The outcome will decide his fate, and perhaps the fate of us all. A horn blared, and Velith moved, not like a beast, but like a storm given flesh, every step shaking the ground. His weapon, a halberd of alien alloy, slicing the air with a hiss that sounded like fire meeting ice. Kieran barely dodged the first strike, the force of it cracking stone where he had stood, the arena floor splitting open like dry earth. But instead of fear, something strange rose in him. Memory, the endless drills of his childhood, the reflexes of instinct, honed by humanity's ancient history of survival. The second strike came faster, but this time Kieran twisted, the shard blade grazing against the halberd, deflecting just enough to turn killing power into a glancing blow. The crowd gasped. Velith snarled, "You fight like prey, pretending to be predator." But in his eyes flickered the faintest glimmer of respect. Kieran said nothing, his breathing even, his focus absolute, every sense sharpened not by rage, but by the razor edge of determination. The duel stretched on, a storm of steel and stone, sparks flying as alien alloy clashed against human steel. Yet as the minutes bled into what felt like hours, the crowd began to shift in mood. Their roars no longer chants for Velith alone, but murmurs of awe for the human who would not fall. At one point, Velith's halberd locked against Kieran's jagged blade, the strength of the champion pressing down with crushing force. "Yield, human, and I will end you swiftly," he growled. Kieran's lips curled into the faintest smile, his voice steady as iron. You mistake me for someone who knows how to yield." With a sudden twist, Kieran dropped his stance, redirecting the momentum. The halberd slammed into the ground. And for a heartbeat, Valeth was exposed. The crowd screamed, half in shock, half in exhilaration, as Kieran's shard blade slashed across Veleth's armor, not piercing but marking it. The first blood Valeth had shed in centuries. The champion staggered back, more stunned than wounded, his hand brushing the glowing mark on his chest plate, and his laugh rolled across the arena like thunder. "So, the human has teeth," he said. "Good. Then let us see whose bite draws blood last." And then, before the fight could continue, a deep horn sounded, not of the arena, but of the city beyond. The alarm of invasion. The crowd froze. The guards tensed. Even Valeth turned his head in shock. And the chieftain rose from his throne, eyes wide with something rarely seen in their kind. Fear. Overhead, the sky cracked with fire. Ships descending not of their people, not of humans, but of something else entirely. And in that moment, rivals, predator, and prey stood facing one another with the same realization. Their duel was no longer the most important fight of the day. The true war had just begun. The ground shook as the horns of war echoed across the alien valley. Dark clouds gathered in the skies, lit by flashes of strange violet lightning, as if the heavens themselves were preparing to witness what was about to unfold. The aliens assembled in formation, their armor gleaming with otherworldly designs, blades and spears glowing with energy that pulsed like living fire. Each tribe, once divided, now stood together against the human who had challenged their way of life. To them, this was not just a battle, it was judgment. At the center of the battlefield stood the human, silent, his eyes fixed not on the weapons pointed at him, but on the leaders who gave the orders. He knew this was not simply about strength. It was about proving something deeper. If he fell, humanity would forever be branded weak, fragile, and unworthy of standing among the stars. But if he endured, if he won, then Earth's name would echo across the galaxy with a weight no enemy could dismiss. The first clash came suddenly. A group of alien warriors charged, their blades cutting through the air like storms of fire. The human moved, faster than they expected. He ducked low, his boots kicking up dirt as he rolled between the strikes. With one swift motion, he disarmed a warrior, seizing the glowing spear and hurling it into another. The crowd gasped, their cries filling the valley like thunder. But the aliens did not stop. Wave after wave crashed against him, their power immense, their numbers overwhelming. The human fought like a storm, trapped in flesh, his body bruised and bloodied, yet his eyes burned brighter with every strike. They struck his back, his ribs, his legs, but still he rose, staggering, refusing to collapse. For every fall, he found a reason to stand. For every wound, he answered. With fury, the alien chieftains watched from their thrones of stone, confusion twisting across their faces. No warrior of their kind had lasted this long against so many. They whispered among themselves, asking the same question: what fueled this fragile creature? What madness or strength kept him alive when any of their own would have surrendered? At last, the battlefield grew silent. The human stood alone, surrounded by fallen warriors, his chest heaving, his blood staining the ground. But from the crowd, a figure emerged, tall, armored in dark steel, eyes glowing with burning gold. It was the champion of the tribes, the one no rival dared to face. This was no longer a test. It was a reckoning. The champion spoke, his voice deep and cold. "You fought well, human. But this is where it ends." He raised his massive blade, carved from the bones of a beast long extinct. The crowd roared, the valley trembled, and the duel began. The first strike nearly split the earth in two. The human dodged, barely, his breath sharp in his throat. Their blades clashed, sparks flying like meteors. Every strike from the champion carried the weight of a mountain. Every block from the human shook his bones. Yet he endured. He met the alien's fury not with fear, but with fire. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The champion struck. The human countered. The champion roared. The human defied. The crowd, once certain of their warrior's victory, now stood silent, their disbelief spreading like fire among dry grass. For every moment the human survived, their certainty crumbled at last. The champion drove him to his knees. The alien's blade hovered above his throat. Victory within reach. The crowd cheered, thinking it was over, but then the human smiled, a small, broken smile that carried the weight of something more. The champion froze, his hand trembling. Why? Why did the human smile even now, staring at death? The silence broke with a single whisper. "You are strong," the human said, his voice rough but steady. "But you fight only for pride. I fight for something greater." And with a sudden surge, the human twisted, wrenching the alien's own blade aside. The move was desperate, reckless, and impossible. But it worked. The champion stumbled, his armor cracking. The human rose once more, battered, bloodied, but unbroken. The crowd erupted not in cheers for the champion, but in cries of disbelief. For the first time in their long history, their greatest warrior was losing. The duel was not finished, but the truth had already been revealed. The human was no longer just a challenger. He had become something else entirely, a symbol, a force that no alien could laugh at again. The final strike had yet to fall, but the balance of the galaxy had already shifted. The battlefield was quiet now, almost too quiet, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Smoke rose from the shattered ground. Broken weapons lay scattered, and bodies of both alien and human fighters rested under the cold stars. But at the center of it all stood Ethan, bruised and bloodied, yet unbroken. His eyes locked on the massive alien commander who still stood tall. The commander was not just any warrior. He was feared across 10 star systems. A rival who had challenged Ethan again and again, testing his limits, pushing him to the edge. But tonight was different. Tonight only one of them would decide the fate of thousands. The alien's weapon hummed, glowing with deadly power, while Ethan held only a cracked blade, its edge dull from the long fight. Yet Ethan's hands did not shake. His voice did not tremble. Instead, he looked at the alien and whispered, "This ends now." The alien's voice rumbled like thunder. "Yes, human, it ends. But who decides? You or me?" And then it came the final choice. Not a choice between victory or defeat, but a choice between mercy and destruction, between peace and endless war. Behind Ethan, the human survivors watched with hope in their tired eyes. Behind the alien commander, his soldiers waited, wounded, but still loyal, their honor tied to the decision of their leader. The alien commander raised his weapon, ready to strike, but then paused, staring at Ethan. "You fight like no other human," he growled. "You fight with fury, but also with heart. And that is dangerous, because it makes others believe in you." Ethan's chest rose and fell, every breath heavy with pain, yet he did not back down. "I don't want them to believe in me," he said. "I want them to believe in peace." The words hit the alien like a blade, sharp and unexpected, for in his world, strength was everything, mercy was weakness, and peace was a lie. Yet here was this broken human, standing against death itself. Not for pride, not for glory, but for something greater. Silence filled the air, broken only by the crackle of fire and the hiss of dying machines. The alien soldiers shifted uneasily, unsure whether to attack or to wait. The humans held their breath, waiting to see if this was their final moment. Then the alien commander lowered his weapon slowly. His eyes burned with conflict, with pride, with shame. "You have defeated me, human," he said, his voice heavy with reluctant respect. "But the greater victory is in the choice you make now. Ethan tightened his grip on the broken blade, his body screaming for rest, his heart screaming for justice. Part of him wanted to end it, to strike the alien down and end the war forever. But another part of him, deeper, stronger, whispered that killing him would only make another enemy rise, another war begin, another generation bleed. And so, with every eye watching, Ethan let the blade fall from his hand, the metal clattering against the stone ground. "I choose peace," he said, his voice steady, even as his body trembled. The alien commander stared, stunned, then threw back his head and let out a sound no one expected. Not a roar of rage, not a growl of defiance, but a deep, booming laugh. "You are either the bravest fool I have ever met, or the wisest," he said. "Perhaps both." He turned to his soldiers, raising his clawed hand. "The war is over," he declared, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "This human has chosen a different path, and so shall we." Gasps rippled through the alien ranks, disbelief and relief mixing together. The humans, too, could hardly believe it. Their enemy, their greatest rival, choosing to honor Ethan's choice. The stars above seemed brighter now, as if the galaxy itself approved. And though Ethan's body was weak, his spirit burned like fire. For in the end, it was not strength that won the battle, not fury, not vengeance. It was the choice to be something greater. And so, the war ended not with the fall of a blade, but with the rise of a man's decision. A human's choice that shook the galaxy, forever changing the meaning of power. Not power to destroy, but power to unite. The battlefield became silent once more, but this time it was not the silence of death. It was the silence before a new beginning.